This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Happy Friday, everyone. Thanks for checking in. Autumn is officially here, but it'll look and feel more like the middle of summer this weekend. Check this out. A ton of sun, daytime highs in the mid-80s, both Saturday and Sunday. Our next chance of rain, which we desperately need, won't be until the early to middle part of next week. Kev's got that weekend forecast for you on the way. The U.S. Senate will try again today to end that 3-day-old government shutdown, but prospects for a deal don't look good. Republicans need support from a handful of Democrats to break the stalemate. Majority Leader John Thune thinks Democrats are playing politics with an eye on next year's midterms.
I realize that my Democrat colleagues are facing pressure from members of their far-left base, but they're playing a losing game here. This government shutdown is a result of hardball politics driven by the demands far-left groups are making to put on a show of their opposition to President Trump.
When it comes to the wheelin' and dealin', House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries says the GOP is unwilling to negotiate in good faith.
Republicans have gone radio silent. It's clear that they wanted to shut this government down, and they wanted to shut it down because they were unwilling to provide health care to working class Americans.
Missouri Senator Josh Hawley says health care is not the issue. Health care for illegals is the issue.
They would rather deny health care to our veterans than deny health care to illegals. They want to give money to illegals so bad, they will shut down the entire government to do it.
Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says it's time to get the government open again.
Let's make sure that people's health care premiums are protected. Let's end this shutdown. Let's get people fed, and let's get these paychecks back flowing.
House Speaker Mike Johnson on the NBC Today Show.
The ball is in the courts of the Democrats, not the Republicans. The Republicans have done our job, done our work, and now Chuck Schumer and 43 of his colleagues have to decide to do the right thing.
We'll see what happens next. 2 votes to reopen the government happen this afternoon in the Senate. Neither are expected to pass. The White House, meantime, is preparing for massive government layoffs. A massive fire at a Chevron plant last night sparked explosions that shook the ground. In Southern California, eyewitnesses could not believe what they were seeing.
Holy! Oh! The sky just lit up orange, and we're not used to that, so everyone ran down the street to be like, what's happening?
Intense flames and smoke could be seen for miles around in the LA area. Correspondent Liz Croix.
This happened around 9:30 last night, and witnesses say they could hear a loud boom that reverberated across the city. The explosion put huge plumes of smoke into the sky, turning the sky here orange. And while authorities have said there have been no injuries from this fire, it did prompt a massive emergency response and a shelter in place here in this immediate area.
Liz Croix reporting from Los Angeles. The cause of that massive blaze remains under investigation. Police in the UK have released the name of the terrorist who killed 2 people and wounded 3 others outside a synagogue in Manchester. It happened on Yom Kippur, the holiest day on the Jewish calendar. The 35-year-old Syrian national plowed through a crowd with his automobile before going on a stabbing spree. He became a British citizen years ago. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer fears Islamic terrorism is rearing its ugly head again.
We must be clear. It is a hatred that is rising once again, and Britain must defeat it once again.
Despite the vicious attack, Manchester remains united. Reporter Vicky Barker.
The synagogue is situated in a neighborhood where Muslims, Jews, and Christians live side by side. David Walker, the Anglican Bishop of Manchester, remembers remembers how the city rallied round after the Manchester Arena suicide attack that killed 22 people 8 years ago.
I would expect we'll respond just the same way this time round and just show our love and our unity for one another.
Multiple community leaders have been affirming this won't be allowed to divide us.
The Islamic terrorist was unable to gain entrance into the synagogue. He was shot dead by security forces. Also from the UK, some breaking news today regarding the Anglican Church. For the first time in its 500-year history, the Church of England has chosen a woman as the Archbishop of Canterbury. She's 63-year-old Sarah Mullally, and she'll be the spiritual head of the world's 85 million Anglicans when she's installed next spring. President Trump says the U.S. is at war with drug cartels. Missouri Senator Eric Schmidt.
These narco-terrorist organizations have declared war on America. The drugs that they send here kill over 100,000 Americans every year.
In recent weeks, the U.S. military has bombed at least 4 boats in the Caribbean that were carrying drugs to the U.S. from Central America. Apple has removed an app that tracks ICE agents. The tech giant's been under pressure ever since a sniper opened fire outside an ICE facility in Dallas last week. He was aiming for ICE agents but missed and killed 2 detainees. The gunman was using an app that tracked the whereabouts of those immigration officials. Border czar Tom Homan.
To give anybody a heads up that ICE is working right now on 14th Street and Broadway, someone's going to get hurt, someone's going to get killed. They gave a heads up to the bad guy, someone's about to knock at your door. I think that's why the app went down, because they're looking at a criminal investigation.
Homan says 70% of the arrests made by ICE agents are of illegal immigrants with criminal records. Anti-ICE violence erupted again last night in Portland, Oregon. Several hundred people clashed with police outside an Immigration and Customs Enforcement building. The president has deployed the National Guard to Portland to help restore order. The city and state, however, are suing to stop the arrival of those troops. The FBI is cutting ties with the Anti-Defamation League. It has to do with the ADL's labeling slain activist Charlie Kirk's group, Turning Point USA, an extremist organization. Here's conservative podcaster Ben Ferguson.
They were trying to destroy Turning Point USA. They were using the federal government as the arm to do it through the FBI and through ADL. And they said, hey, we'll just claim that this is what they are. They'll lose their influence.
FBI Director Kash Patel says the Bureau will not partner any longer with political fronts that masquerade as watchdogs. Turning Point USA was included in a since-deleted glossary of extremism on ADL's website. It's worth mentioning that groups like the Muslim Brotherhood or Antifa did not appear on that website. And the wild card round is over with in Major League Baseball's postseason. The latest on the action from reporter Peter King.
3 of the 4 series came down to a deciding third game.
This one is popped up McMahon, and the Yankees have completed step 1 on their way back to a World Series.
ESPN's Carl Ravitch as the New York Yankees beat the Red Sox 4-0. Earlier, Detroit beat the Guardians in Cleveland. The Cubs topped the Padres in Chicago. New York meets Toronto in the division series. The Tigers meet Seattle in the next round. The Cubs go north to Milwaukee, while the Dodgers meet the Phillies. All 4 series start Saturday.
We'll have more on October baseball coming up with Randy in sports. Also ahead on the Noon Report, new Fetterman poll raising eyebrows. Syracuse has a speeding problem and getting ready for the Wine Glass Marathon.
Hi, I'm Kevin Williams. A warm, sunny, dry weekend is ahead. I'll have forecast details in 10 minutes.
All right, Kevin, thank you. New York State has just issued an outdoor burn ban for the next 2 weeks. It's because of the lingering drought. Dry conditions have led to high fire danger for much of the state. DEC officials will reevaluate that burn ban ban on October 15th. Pennsylvania is the only state in the country right now without a state budget. The spending plan is more than 3 months past the due date. Beck Moore with the Community Action Association says the fiscal impasse in Harrisburg is hurting those who need help the most.
And every day of that delay is a day of risk, hunger, and falling further behind for families across the Commonwealth. And now this impact is further compounded by the federal government shutdown, further straining nonprofit operations that rely on these critical funds that were already strained.
Moore's group represents critical for-profit and not-for-profit service providers, schools, hospitals, and nursing homes all scaling back due to the fiscal impasse in Harrisburg. Survey says more of us are struggling to afford our groceries. Here's correspondent Rory O'Neill.
Just under half of those surveyed in the Harris Axios Vibes poll say groceries are harder to afford than they were a year ago. A third say they're about the same. 19% say groceries are cheaper. More Democrats and independent voters say costs are going up. Findings also show about 8 in 10 Americans believe President Trump has significant influence over the economy, but just 47% say that impact has been positive. I'm Rory O'Neill.
A new Quinnipiac poll shows how Pennsylvania Democrats feel about their Senator John Fetterman. 54% disapprove of the job he is doing in the battleground state. That's Democrats. By the way, John Fetterman is a Democrat. Just a year ago, 80% of Pennsylvania Democrats like the job that John Fetterman was doing. Conversely, Republicans today give Fetterman a huge approval rating. 62% of Republicans in Pennsylvania like the job that John Fetterman is doing. A year ago, 3 out of 4 Republicans disapproved of John Fetterman. So much can change in just a year. Drivers are not making the grade, apparently, in Syracuse. Cameras have caught motorists no fewer than 60,000 times in just the past 2 weeks, speeding through school zones. Right now, the city's in a grace period that will end November 2nd. After that, motorists will be getting a ticket in the mail if they speed in school zones. Syracuse Mayor Ben Walsh.
The goal here is to get people to slow down, to pay attention, and to drive safely.
The fine is $50 for motorists who go at least 15 miles an hour over the posted speed limit in those school zones. Again, the tickets start showing up in the mail in early November. New York Attorney General Tish James says social media companies must be more transparent in how they deal with hate speech online. The Stop Hiding Hate Act took effect October 1st. This law requires Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Snapchat to submit reports twice a year to the AG's office, outlining how their platforms handle hate speech, racism, disinformation, and harassment. The 44th annual Wineglass Marathon is this Sunday in Steuben County, New York. The full marathon, 26.2 miles, that begins in Bath and will end on Market Street in Corning. The half marathon begins in Campbell and will end in Corning. Race organizer David DeGolier on WENY TV.
There are over 6,500 runners coming, so it's a record number. They're coming from 48 states, so pretty much everywhere except Idaho and Arkansas. We got to work on those too. But they're also coming from 14 different countries, so as far away as Brazil, Norway, China, Vietnam, Spain, Canada. It's pretty awesome.
Motorists need to watch for detours on race day Sunday. There are signs posted all along the race route. We've got sports next. It's a 2-minute drill on Family Life.
Cam Schlittler. Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, that is a name that Yankee fans are going to remember for a long time. The rookie hurler spun 8 shutout innings and struck out 12 Red Sox players in a dominating performance last night. He only allowed 5 hits and only 1 runner reached scoring position. New York collected all 4 of their runs in the 4th inning on some misplays by Boston. So it's the Yankees who are moving on to face the Blue Jays. Also advancing the Detroit Tigers, Dylan Dingler homered in the 6th. Then the Tigers scored 4 runs in the 7th. And they down Cleveland 6-3. Detroit now takes on Seattle beginning tomorrow. Major League Baseball will implement a new challenge system for balls and strikes next season, but San Diego's Xander Bogaerts wishes it was already in place. On a 3-2 pitch, he took what certainly looked like ball 4 on a ball that was clearly out of the K zone. At least that's how the television showed it. The ump called it a strike. In a 3-1 game in the 9th inning, the Padres should have had a man on first with nobody out. The next 2 batters got hit, so it would have been bases loaded, no outs. Instead, it was 2 on with 1 out, and the next 2 Padres were retired. But their batted balls most likely would have tied the game up. As it was, the Cubs advanced. They'll play the Brewers with that 3-1 victory. In the Thursday night football matchup, the 49ers held on to defeat the Rams in overtime, 26-23. San Francisco made a stop on 4th down to secure the victory. That is a look at sports.
All right, Randy, thank you very much. And still to come on the Noon Report, a Friday edition. Assisted suicide in New York. Still no budget in Pennsylvania. And summer-like for the weekend. Kev's got that forecast right after this.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stone Street. Laws raising minimum wage rates are intended to help people in lower income brackets make more money. But in practice, especially with the rise of robotics and AI, it's far more likely that many in this demographic will be edged out of work. Recently, Dr. Anthony Bradley posted on X about a fully automated McDonald's. He said this, quote, "This is the future of fast food. Raising the minimum wage won't save these jobs. Robots don't need unions. Prediction, politicians will try to slow automation with new regulations, but it's coming fast," end quote. It's interesting how the supporters of laws that sound good and seem helpful are often quiet when their good intentions don't pan out. Remember the whole Cash for Clunkers program from the early years of the Obama administration? The program, and I quote here, fueled a car buying spree in the summer of 2009. However, according to an analysis by the Brookings Institute, it cost $1.4 million for every job it created and did little to reduce carbon emissions, end quote. Look, the idea of helping should not matter more than actually helping, nor can any intended good justify ineffectiveness or increased harm. Every parent already knows this. A child who says, "I didn't mean to," does not magically change what that child did. In their classic book called When Helping Hurts, How to Alleviate Poverty Without Hurting the Poor and Yourself, scholars Steve Corbett and Brian Fickert noted this, quote, "Few of us are conscious of having a God complex, which is part of the problem. We're often deceived by Satan and our sinful natures. For example, consider this. Why do you want to help the poor? Really think about it. What truly motivates you? Do you really love poor people and want to serve them? Or do you have other motives? I confess to you that part of what motivates me to help the poor is my felt need to accomplish something worthwhile with my life, to be a person of significance, to feel like I have pursued a noble cause, to be a bit like God," end quote. Well, Christ warned against making a public show, both in our worship and in how we care for others. The number of clicks and shares don't make a good deed better. In fact, that is a measure that should not matter at all. What matters is obeying God's command to love our neighbor. Keeping our help private is an important way to avoid common temptations. For example, the desire to be seen as a good person by others. Paul wrote, "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters." And Jesus commanded that we not practice our righteousness before men. It's a good habit to do this kind of gut check about what's motivating us to help others. Another temptation, especially for government entities dependent on constantly increased funding, is to not fix the problem. If our own self-worth, our employment, or our funding is based on being there for those in need, they always have to be there as well. No one, of course, would ever say such a thing out loud, but it's a very real temptation. And finally, it's always tempting to confuse pity with charity. This has everything to do with how we think about who people are, especially those we're trying to help. Michael Matheson Miller, who leads the Acton Institute Center for Social Flourishing, describes this as the temptation to treat the poor as objects of our pity instead of subjects made in the image of God. To be an image bearer is to be an I, not merely one of them. Christians have always cared for the poor and, of course, always should. Even more, Christians normalized caring for the poor. It's not a question of if, it's a question of how. If the choice is between giving for bad reasons and not giving at all, by all means, give. But righteousness involves both doing the right thing and doing it for the right reasons. Good intentions are necessary, but they are not enough. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint.
All right, John, thank you. Let's head outside next. Kevin Williams.
Here is your Family Life weather forecast for this afternoon. Generally sunny and warm for the time of year. High temperatures in the 70s. Clear, calm tonight with low temperatures mid-40s to mid-50s. A little patchy late-night fog. For tomorrow, Sunday, plenty of sunshine. And again, for this time of year on the warm side. High temperatures both days, mid-70s to the middle 80s.
All right, sounds like summer. Thank you very much, Kevin. It is Friday, folks. Congratulations, you've made it the 3rd of October, and you're listening to the Noon Report on Family Life. This is Capital Connection. Fridays during the Noon Report, we give you, the listener, direct connection to all that's happening in Albany and Harrisburg with the experts on the issues at the state capitals. Michael Gear in Harrisburg. I want to start with you. The federal government may be broken. State government may be broken, but as far as we can tell, the lights are still on at the Pennsylvania Family Institute, and that is a very good thing. What's your take on all the dysfunction that we're seeing now, not just in Washington, D.C., of course, but in your state capital? Here we are 3 months officially past the due date for a state budget and still no deal.
Yes, Pennsylvania, the only state in the country without a budget. Here we are in October with the budget deadline that was in June. And with the federal government shut down, there are tight budgets that are hitting county governments, especially with the state budget impasse. They're having to borrow money to make ends meet, waiting for dollars to come from the state that are not there. And we're hoping for a budget settlement sometime soon, but I don't really see that light at the end of the tunnel quite yet.
Wow. Well, let's bring Jason McGuire, New York Families, in on the conversation as well. Jay, immigration enforcement is a hot button topic right now. ICE agents, wherever they are, seem to have a bullseye on their back. There was skirmishes in the Rochester region recently. A number of county sheriffs are taking heat for cooperating with ICE. I know the sheriff of Steuben County, Jim Allard, had to deal with some protests this week for partnering with ICE when it comes to immigration enforcement. Is it a proper role for local law enforcement, like sheriff's deputies, to cooperate with ICE on immigration enforcement?
It absolutely is a responsibility of those sheriff's offices to engage in aiding federal law enforcement in these matters, particularly when asked to do so. What we're finding, though, is because of the politics of the day and the ideological divides, we're trying to create divisions between law enforcement agencies, when historically we want to see those agencies working together, not only for the protection of those officers, but for the protection of our public safety.
Yeah. You predicted when the tires were slashed in Rochester that something bad was going to happen, and then we saw Dallas last week where something really bad happened. Michael, I want to move on and talk a little bit about Stacey Garrity. She has gotten the blessing now of the state Republican Party to challenge Governor Shapiro for his job next year. It won't be easy. The governor, very popular in Pennsylvania despite the budget impasse. Do you really think that she is the GOP's best shot at winning back the governor's mansion next year?
Well, I think the Republicans endorsed her, seeing her as a really good shot at taking out Governor Shapiro. Again, it is somewhat of a long shot given his popularity, but she is the top vote getter of any Republican in Pennsylvania history in this last election when she ran for treasurer. The fact that she is a woman, which just gives a boost, as it turns out in polling, just being a woman on the ballot is a boost. And the positions that she's taken on issues make her, I think, a viable candidate, certainly, but that remains to be seen. We're still really early in this gubernatorial race.
Yeah. Well, last year about this time, Jason, we were making a lot of noise about this thing called Proposal 1, the so-called Equal Rights Amendment that passed on Election Day, much to your chagrin. This ballot measure that would effectively change the state constitution to include more protections for LGBTQ individuals. That passed last year. When will we see the effects of that decision by the voters in last year's election?
Well, I think you may already be starting to see that happen. Recently, there was a lawsuit filed by a transgender runner against Geneseo, SUNY Geneseo. This is a runner who is a male seeking to compete against female athletes and is now using that Proposal 1, as a basis for bringing a lawsuit against SUNY Geneseo and other colleges that are banning him from participating against female athletes. So I believe you will soon start to see some of those effects coming from Proposal 1.
Yeah. Michael, there is, we're all looking ahead to 2026, but there's a really big election coming up in your state in just a few weeks. It's the retention election, November 4th, for 3 state Supreme Court justices. You're going to know their names soon if you don't already. Why does this election matter so much?
Well, it's significant because of decisions we've already seen these justices make and then what the potential is for decisions they would make in the future. These 3 justices are seeking additional 10-year terms on the bench, so the voters will be either vote yes to keep them on the bench or no to see them lose that seat going forward. But these justices have ruled on the issue of abortion, they've ruled on the issue of redrawing maps and mail-in ballots and things in ways that I think many of the listeners of this program would think, well, those were not really sensible legal decisions. And they have been endorsed by Planned Parenthood, running ads supporting abortion. So that's why we think it's important that people get out and vote this election season.
Well, Jason, and you're writing about this on your website. We'll give that address at the end. Governor Hochul has yet to sign that assisted suicide bill that passed the state Senate in early June. She did mention the issue, though, in a speech last week. Based on what she said, what way do you think she's leaning here?
Oh, it's tough to read the tea leaves with this governor, but, I think the governor essentially made a statement trying to distance her personal feelings from this issue of assisted suicide. The press is trying to say that because she is a Catholic, she may be distancing herself from opposing assisted suicide, as the New York State Catholic Conference and our organization has come out against assisted suicide. But in reality, I think she's just still punting. I think she's got some time before the end of the year, and thankfully, I think she's carefully looking at this issue. And frankly, and maybe a little more discouraging part of it is, she's probably looking at the politics of the situation. And so I hope that the governor will truly look to the reasons to oppose assisted suicide, not the ever-changing political winds that blow.
Yeah, and you have articulated better than most about why assisted suicide is not just bad health care policy, which it is, but it's just bad overall. If you consider yourself pro-life, why should you oppose this, Jason?
Well, we've spoken in the past about how there's sometimes a divide in the pro-life community, and people will see supporting the sanctity of human life at the beginning of life, but they struggle with supporting it at the end of life. The reality is God is the giver of life from the moment of conception until natural death. And so there are theological reasons to oppose assisted suicide, but there are also practical reasons, as it just changes medicine. We don't want to give insurance agencies reasons to stop funding end-of-life care.
Well, Michael, there was a recent federal judge's ruling that you were pleased with that would allow parochial school kids to play sports in public schools in their home district. How is this a win for families and not just sports?
Well, we at Pennsylvania Family Institute have long supported parental choice in education, and with sports being such a key component in American culture today, the opportunity for parents and their kids to continue to participate in private school, in a Catholic school, a Christian school, but then get the ability to play on a football team or something that their school may not offer, provides just more options for kids and parents to make choices that benefit their family best. It's not for everybody, but again, we believe that when parents have the ability to choose, that makes it better for everyone.
Well, Jason, there's not a lot that you and Tish James agree on, but you do argue that the new Safe for Kids Act, which she's promoting, is a good idea. You think there are things that can be done to that to make it better. I want to ask you, what is the Safe for Kids Act for those who don't know, and how will it help address this unhealthy hold that social media has on our children?
Yeah, the so-called SAFE Act, not the same as the SAFE Act of some years ago dealing with Second Amendment issues. This is the SAFE Act for Kids, will actually really get to the core of dealing with how children are targeted through the algorithms on social media. And so it will require these companies to not be able to use that same algorithm method they have with minors as they do with adults. It's a step in the right direction. We would prefer to see that there be some form of age verification really in the apps at the App Store level, so it affects every app rather than just these limited social media options that are in this particular bill. But it's a step in the right direction, and I'm glad that the eyes of government are now turning towards protecting our kids when they're online.
All right, and if you want to comment on that new legislation in New York, there's a public input period, I think, until December. But if you'd like to learn more about New York Family's position on this matter, Jason, where can folks find you online?
NewYorkFamilies.org.
All right, and learn more about the Pennsylvania Family Institute in Harrisburg. Michael, where can folks find you?
PAFamily.org.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Capital Connection, the name of the program. It comes your way Fridays during the Noon Report, or online anytime at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or FamilyLife.org.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. Well, it's the first official weekend of autumn, but it's going to have a feel of summer. High pressure will keep our skies fair, the air dry, and those temperatures on the high side right through into Monday. The next chance of any much-needed rainfall here will come later Tuesday night into Wednesday of next week. For this afternoon, generally sunny and warm for the time of year. High temperatures in the 70s. Clear, calm tonight with low temperatures, mid-40s to mid-50s, a little patchy late-night fog. For tomorrow, Sunday, plenty of sunshine, and again for this time of year on the warm side. High temperatures both days, mid-70s to the middle 80s.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. Finally, at noon today, according to the Centers for Disease Control, 70 million of us are getting less than 7 hours of sleep at night. And that's making us old.
Researchers in Sweden studied more than 27,000 brain scans and sleep patterns and found people with poor sleep have older brains. Scientists say that lack of Z's isn't just minor sleep deprivation, it's aging your brain by about a year. It also reduces attention spans and response time. Men have worse scores than women, but experts in the study say to keep a younger brain, we should be reaching for the pillow, not a cup of joe. I'm Bree Tennis.
All right, Bree, thank you very much. And just like that, we're out of time. That's our world, the world we live in. Friday, October 3rd. I'm Bob Price, Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at FamilyLife.org.